Mark, today we have our very special Thanksgiving episode. Stay tuned, and you're in for a treat. Well, welcome to Breaking Biscuits, the experience. And Mark, we've been on a vulnerability path for quite some time. Some of our podcasts are pretty intense, deep, and I think have stirred a lot of thinking. Today, we're broadcasting on Thanksgiving Day, so you can tell with the little icons here that we got. We're in the spirit of being grateful, so we want to talk a little bit about gratefulness, but tied into vulnerability in the same topic, but coming from more of a gratefulness standpoint. So I'll just kind of kick it off with the question: when you think of being grateful and you think of vulnerability, and how do you see those connected?
I had heard years ago that entitlement ends when gratefulness begins. And I'm just thankful that I'm not where I used to be, I guess. And vulnerability in our conversations and friendships and the journey we're on has taken us into a new place. And I don't know if I could ever be any more thankful that we are where we are, because I think people live in a cycle and they're stuck there, but there's a difference when they step out of it. And you and I have been able to guide people out of the cycle, and because we coach ourselves out of it, honestly. And
times.
It's a weekly thing with us, but I'm just thankful. I'm thankful that my biggest thankfulness right now is that I'm not alone.
Yeah.
That's probably my biggest one. I'm not alone. Really not alone. We've always had friends, but now I have friendships that are really rooted deep, and they hold me, they understand me when I go off the rails. I couldn't be any more grateful.
Yeah, I think when we talk about this, as you're talking, one of the thoughts that came to my mind is we've talked a little bit about humility in the past. And when I think about gratefulness, I think about kind of the same lane you're in, is the people that are around me in my life. Am I grateful for them? And then if I am, do I tell them? And then when you think about vulnerability, you have to be vulnerable to be grateful, because you get to kind of drop the walls and begin to speak from the heart and say, especially in a relationship, right? So, you and I are talking, earlier, and there's men that have difficulty just telling their wives they love them. So it's that being able to drop your walls and be vulnerable and just say, hey, I just want you to know I'm really grateful for, whatever that might be about their character, their personality, anything that you're grateful for your spouse and your mate. And I just think life gets in the way, and it's easy not to do that, Mark. It's easy just to forget to take a moment and just walk up and pause and say, hey, I just want you to know how grateful I am for you doing this, or you being this way. Does that make sense?
Oh, man. But we take each other for granted at some point.
Yeah.
But what we don't realize is that it gives us fuel when the other person, our mate, acknowledges our effort. That is a huge, huge deal. We grew up in a world where the husbands say, well, I told her I loved her when I married her, didn't I?
Right.
We practice this. If people would come to Breaking Biscuits, they would see the whole experience of how it works, led by people that practice it. But we intentionally, in our home, we intentionally acknowledge people's effort and express thankfulness for every little thing as much as possible. What it's just saying is, I'm aware, I'm present, and what you did meant a lot to me.
Right.
But we take each other for granted, and I think a lot of young men grow up in this archaic 1950s, I work, make money, you make the house or whatever. And that model doesn't work anymore.
No, I think that left with Leave It to Beaver. Sometimes just a thank you can be amazing. Like, it can change the atmosphere. If somebody does something simple and little for you, and you just say, "Hey, thanks, babe. Thanks for doing that. I appreciate it." I mean, I think it's sometimes it's the little things, but then there's moments that we just need to pause. Like, that's what Thanksgiving really is for me, is a moment to pause and just think about all the things that I'm grateful for. And like, for me, like, I've lived an incredible life, and God has blessed me well beyond what I believe I deserve. And I'm grateful for that, but I'm grateful for the people in my life. And because those people are very important to me. And I wouldn't want it any other way. It's where I'm at, and I just want to live the best life that I have, and I can't do that without gratefulness. I think the lack of gratefulness for me, Mark, would turn into an arrogance, self-sufficiency, a closed person that doesn't want to open up. But gratefulness really kind of is the key to the lock of our hearts, I think.
And I think what we're learning at Breaking Biscuits is that's a level of vulnerability that we call intimacy. I'll give an example. Me and my wife, we call each other 5, 7, how many times a day. We see each other. We never leave home, but she's really taught me this concept, and we probably say I love you to each other like at least 20 times a day. But this morning she said, I'd like to make a burrito kind of thing, breakfast burrito, before I go to work. And I'm like, okay. So I do the bacon and the eggs and roll it up, and she leaves for work, and didn't really expect anything, but she thanked me for it on the way. Says, best breakfast ever. But it was being present. You have to be present to do that. You have to acknowledge, I'm thankful. And it made me be thankful. Nobody wants to live. I just wonder, Toby, how many people are living in their world, their marriage world or whatever, and feel like no one acknowledges it. No one's thankful for what I do. No one says anything. But you can make a huge difference. If the man would just walk in the house and go, man, the house looks great. That goes a long ways, I think.
Yeah, and I think what you're describing is how people actually grow apart, is that when there's no gratefulness or communication in that area, you just end up like just doing your own thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, I don't feel like anybody appreciates what I do, so I'm just going to do me.
Or the
And
bare minimum.
yeah, and then the other party is saying exactly the same thing. Well, nobody appreciates me, so I'm going to do me. I'm just going to do what benefits me because nobody cares. And I would just say, for those folks that are in that place, you're together for a reason. There was a moment in time, especially if you're married, that you appreciated that person so much
Mm-hmm.
that you said, I want to spend the rest of my life with them.
Mm-hmm.
It's in there, Mark.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just got to take the risk of being vulnerable. I mean, that's what we teach. And saying, hey, this is what I'm grateful for, which I think right now would be a good time for our listeners. Like, put this into practice. Like, put in the comments, tell us what you're grateful for in your life. And if you can, make it about the other person.
Mm-hmm.
And just put it in the comments. I'm grateful for, I'll give one. I'm grateful that my wife will not let me sit silent.
One way or the other.
One way or the other. Like, she demands communication. And it's changed my life because
Me too.
I just lived in my own world, to be honest with you.
And it forces you to be present.
It does.
Because we're so used to living in our own world, like you just said. And the wife is saying, I need more. And I need to know where you're at, what you're thinking, what's going on. And I guess some men would call that annoying, but if you just go with it, you find connection is way better that way.
Yeah. Well, and it's not coming from a place of judgment. It's coming from a place of desire.
I want to be a part of that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the difference.
What would I guess I have a hard time because, we coach a lot of marriages and we do breaking biscuits, and but they didn't start out that way. So what is the disconnect? Is it life, or are there past things revisited in them, or like, what do you think?
I think it's all of it. Like, I think it's life gets busy. I mean, incredibly busy. I mean, the culture we live in is all about, getting ahead or getting, the house you want, the vacation you want, whatever it is, whatever your thing is. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but just the busyness that comes with it and the commitment of time that comes with that. And then I think in a relationship, there's always going to be hurts. There's things that's going to happen. They don't have to be major. They can be small, medium. They come in all shapes, forms, and sizes.
You're right.
And the question is, how do you work through them? And if you don't work through them, Mark, then they pile up. And, you just end up having a room full of hurts that you can't discuss, that are not resolved. And then consequently, there's walls that are being built. And once those walls get built, you're not going to be vulnerable, and you're not going to show your gratefulness toward that person, because you feel unwanted, unloved, and unimportant. And the reality is, it's probably not that. It's probably something else in the way. But at the end of the day, we're driven by how it makes us feel. So consequently, we don't take any action. But I think the subject we're on, which I didn't really expect us to go this direction, But I think gratefulness is a key
Mm-hmm.
to unlocking that room and going inside the room and start dealing with all the stuff that's in the room. Because it shows, like if I show gratefulness to my wife, it shows her that I'm on the same team with her. I'm in this with her.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not judging her. Like I appreciate her. We're on the same team. And that
Mm-hmm.
changes the perspective of how you deal with problems or disagreements or whatever it might be. It shows a different side of it.
What you're saying, what I'm hearing you say is, at some point, the lack of gratefulness turns to resentment.
100%.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's impossible to be resentful if you're grateful.
I was just fixing to ask you that. Can you be grateful and resentful in the same moment?
They don't live in the same space. They just
It's kind of
don't.
like grace and fear, or whatever we were talking about before.
Yeah, exactly. Well, grace and shame. Like
So
one displaces the other.
speak to the husband that feels invisible, or the wife feels not appreciated, growing into resentment. What could they do to bait this in the right direction?
Well, I mean, we all have the right to feel what we feel.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, what do we do with those feelings?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just you have to just approach it and communicate and share, what you feel, why you feel it. It's the first step. But at the same time, don't walk in the landmine of I'm going to do it in a judgmental fashion. Like there's something wrong with the other person. That's going to go nowhere. You're just going to end up, pointing out the deficits in each other, and that doesn't help the relationship. It doesn't help the individuals. So I think it's just communication. Because what happens is, I've been in that space before, and some of it was just my own perception at times, but I never talked about it. That's the real issue. It grows if you leave it silent and you leave it on the inside. It just grows in your mind, it grows in your heart, and the resentment takes root. And once the resentment gets to a certain stage, then your actions follow. And you're going to treat the person like you resent them. You're going to be disrespectful. You're not going to care.
So the attitudes, behavior, words, inflections all come with that.
Yeah. So
But the truth is, he just wanted to be acknowledged and appreciated.
Yeah, he wants to feel. I mean, we all do. We just want to feel heard, and we want to feel loved, and we want to feel. I always say, fully loved and fully known. We want to feel. We want to feel known, especially by the person you're spending your life with. Like, why would you want to feel? And you do.
Yeah.
I keep going back to that, Mark. They do, and we do. It's just you've lost it along the way. It's time to. It's time to find it. That's what we're